The Final Fantasy franchise and its main games are known for sharing many features between them that could make anyone go, oh, this is a Final Fantasy game. These things can be the job systems that characters can have for gameplay reasons, or abilities like the name of the magic spells with Flare, Ultima and the Ara or Aga ones. Probably one concept that is clearly not exclusive to this series is the idea of a character having a pet joining them in the journey, with these adorable fellas having a specific role in it according to each game.
Good kitty.
With Final Fantasy XVI coming up in less than 12 weeks, as we get to learn more about the game, we also learn that the main character is going to be followed by some companions. And the most important one is going to be the pet wolf called Torgal, who's going to be Clive's loyal partner not only in the journey but also in battle. So this will be the second part of my set of videos in which we do a summary of the previous releases in the series to check how they handle what Final Fantasy XVI is also doing in its unique way, in this case, which party member used to travel in their adventure with a pet friend, and how important these were to the world or story of them, or which role they had as a game mechanic. You have to take in consideration that these are fantasy worlds, so while the idea of your main character finding some mythical or fictional creatures like chocobos, muggles or mechanical horses is common, the focus of this recap is that these are more realistic pets that you or I can have. Or some exceptions, where the characters at issue have a deep emotional connection with this fictional creature, as long as they are treated as pets in the game. Before starting, be mindful of spoilers in each section, and any type of support in the form of subs or likes, etc. I will deeply appreciate it. Hello, this is an exception already, but hear me out. This game is too good and pet focused not to mention. Granted, they are all mythical, but in the story, most if not all the main characters have a special someone who takes an active role on their journey, so allow me to talk about it. In Final Fantasy V, you start your adventure with the main character Bartz, and the first thing you see is him having a nice bonfire with his pet, the chocobo named Boko, as they are both exploring the world together. Then they go to investigate when hearing a loud noise, and find two more of the party members, Lena and Garuf, and all of them had to ride Boko to escape from the goblins and the earth shaking, until they'd get separated entering a cave. Bartz later discovered that Boko had tried to follow them, prompting him to follow and find Boko in the care of the pirate's doctor in their hideout, as he is injured resting there. Later in the game we visit the cave with Kriele, who can communicate with animals, and we learn about some very cute information. While we were busy traveling through worlds, Boko was a different type of busy, meeting a chocobo girl named Coco, who is soon to give birth to their children. After reuniting, you get more moments where Boko will be your mount, and the duo is back together for their journey, having to deal especially with the enemy Antlion before Faris find you and rejoin the party. But what we were waiting for is at the end, where we get to see that he has baby chocobos with Coco, and after they grow up, they will be together with the crew. Lena, another main character, has her family pet too. This time it's Hiryu, their wind dragon. At the start of the game, it departs with her father, and after being lost, the party finds him at the northern mountains, where he is dying and only the dragon grass is able to recover him. Lena decides to put herself in danger as those are poisonous to humans, and is able to make him healthy once more, and be your flying mount for this part of the game. Once the worlds are merged, Lena assumed her position as queen of the castle of Tycoon, and when the void consumed the entire place, it was Hiryu who took her and saved her from that. But she is possessed by one of ex-death lackeys, so to free her from that, he sacrificed himself so the party can fight this evil spirit and save Lena. The kinda good part is that you can climb the Phoenix Tower and surprisingly you meet him again, as he came here knowing that he won't survive much longer. So instead, he gives the party his power, becoming the Summoned Phoenix, first time in the series, unlocking a very emotional scene about Lena and Hiryu in her childhood, where Lena's mother was dying and the only way to save her was to kill the wind drake and offer its tongue. Next is Faris, the pirate captain whose pet is the sea dragon Syldra. They have known each other since kids and became best friends after Syldra saved her when a young Faris fell overboard, having a relationship like siblings. As part of the pirate crew, Syldra is in charge to pull the ship through the water even when the wind of the land stopped. Once you meet Faris and start traveling with her to reach the Wind Shrine, the ship is attacked by a monster called Karlavos. After defeating it, the whirlpool created dragged Syldra, so you get separated from her while you continue your mission through the elemental towers under crystals. But more importantly, tragedy finally hits us, because after finishing the water crystal, the party will be sinking and it's Syldra the one to appear and save all of us. But this was her last bit of strength, as she sacrificed herself to take us to a safe place, leaving a heartbroken Faris behind. But once more, on the good side, is that once the worlds are merged, by visiting the pirate hideout, Faris will be able to see Syldra's spirit, and Krille, who could understand Syldra words, told us that she wanted to help, becoming then a new acquired summon to use in battle, staying with us for the rest of the game. You'll be able to see Syldra appearing in games like Final Fantasy XIV as a mount, World of Final Fantasy, and Final Fantasy Dimensions. Speaking of Krille, as I said before, she has the ability to communicate with animals and different creatures, such as Chocobos, Muggles and her own pet, as she also has her own Wind Drake, who is used by both her and Galuf to save the party from different occasions, such as to escape from X-Death Castle from Gilgamesh or to find them at the Muggle village. In this last one, a wounded Wind Drake is willing to help, but it pushes itself to the point of being close to death. That is when the party goes to Drakenveld to find a specific food that heals these drakes, as it was the case with Hiryu. At first, it refuses to be treated, but Lena, knowing her relationship with her own Drake, saves it by risking her life and persuading it. Once healthy, it will be your way of traveling through this world. At the end of the game, you'll see Boko and his family carrying part of the main characters, and Krille flies around in her own Wind Drake after saving the world. So even at the very end, there's still a cute focus on these animals and their bond with the main party. Now we enter a more familiar territory when it's about normal pets. Final Fantasy VI introduced a character and party member Shadow, a usually hired assassin who's followed by his loyal dog Interceptor, which by its pride seems to be like a Doberman breed, and is very predominant in Shadow's past and present story. But not only that, there's also some small game mechanics included. This is a concept brought to life by Tetsuya Nomura, after wanting to introduce a class similar to a ninja with a dog in the previous game. Shadow and Interceptor story through the game is of course going to be connected. At first, you just meet him as an assassin who tag along Savin and later Cyan, or selling his services to the returners, even mentioning that part of the price was to feed Interceptor. But it's not until you visit Tamasa that their stories start to develop. Here, you first meet an old man called Strago. Once you ask him about the place, his granddaughter Realm will appear, and immediately is going to find Interceptor cute, while he reacts and becomes very friendly and playful with her, surprising Shadow himself as the dog usually doesn't like people, and even hesitate to leave her side when leaving the house. After spending the night there, Strago asks for our help as a mansion with Realm inside is in flames, so the group, minus Shadow, decides to go help, even if Interceptor went ahead too. When you reach the end of the dungeon, you'll find a fainted Realm guarded by Interceptor from the fire. When the house starts to collapse and everyone is knocked out, Shadow appears to rescue everyone, claiming he did it just to save his dog. Once again, before leaving the town, Interceptor hesitates to leave as it keeps playing with Realm. The dog's next appearance was after Kefka took the Espers and killed General Leo. The party would find a heavily injured Interceptor, assuming Shadow was also targeted by the Empire. But after reaching the floating continent, he joins to stop Kefka and Gestalt, having a key role in saving the party from the Warring Trial, where you can decide to leave him behind or wait for him before reaching the World of Ruin, where the whole squad splits. To find Shadow, you have to visit the cave on the belt, where Interceptor will welcome you and bark at us to signal to follow him, as Shadow lies unconscious and wounded. After defeating a Behemoth King, you took him to Tamasa so he can recover while Interceptor guards over him, and a flashback scene triggers. In it, you see Shadow's past, revealing that he is from Tamasa, and left this place to avoid his past as a rover to catch up with him, and that includes leaving his family behind. Interceptor catches up to him, and even if Shadow instructed him to remain by his daughter's side, the loyal dog decides to follow him, becoming inseparable since then. So by all these hints, you learn that his daughter is in fact Realm, which explains how good of a relationship Interceptor and she has through the game. In fact, if Shadow is left behind at the floating continent, Interceptor will lead you to an injured Realm in the cave. Another cool thing about this loyal friend is that it takes part in the action and battles of the game too. He will act as a passive status for Shadow, with a chance of Interceptor blocking any physical attack against his master. Not only that, but there's also two types of counterattack that he can do after Shadow receives a hit. They are called Wild Fang and Takedown, and both works in similar way. And even better, if Shadow is left behind after the floating continent, this status will be applied to Realm instead. Very cute. In Final Fantasy VII, there's a very important character who has a mascot, in this case a very cute cat. No, it's not Ketchy, although it might as well be Riv's pet. But I'm talking about Tifa Lockhart, who actually owned a cat when she lived in Nibelheim. It's not someone you'll see, as this happened before the start of the game, but when Tifa was a kid, she received her cat Maru from her father. It's a typical White House cat that looks similar to the ones you have to search for in Chapter 3 of the remake. Her first appearance will be in the Japanese mobile game Before Crisis, that shows events before the game from the point of view of the Turks, especially the character you control, Shotgun. On it, during her investigations in Nibelheim, she will see Tifa running through Mount Nibel as Maru rushes through it, and protects them from the monsters running around. And the most important moment involving Maru here is that after Sephiroth turned the town on fire, and flashes Tifa when wanting to confront him, it's the kitty the one who followed Tifa and went back to alert Sangan and guide him to her, so he could take her to safety, avoiding Hojo and the Shinra group taking, for example, the bodies of Zack and Cloud. Last time you see her is in Nibelheim while they are reconstructing the city for the cover-up. But we just got new information and background from Maru and Tifa in the recently released Traces of Two Pasts. Part of Tifa's past in Nibelheim is told, especially when she was a kid, before Cloud left and had the promise at the tower. Tifa received Maru as a gift from the head of the village in agreement with her father on her 12th birthday, and its main trait was how often it decided to run off and get lost, making everyone actively looking for it. The first time it happened, it was Claudia Strife who knocked at the Lockhart residence door, with Maru in her hands, to bring her back, but revealing that it was in fact her son Cloud, the one who found Maru, but wanted her to return the little kitty instead. This little escapade won't be the last one from the cat, as Tifa would constantly find herself looking for little Maru, or sometimes it will return on her own. That would bring some situations where little Cloud and little Tifa interacted and some teasing to the latter because of it, as he tended to find Maru often during the visits and walks around Mount Nibel. The novel then goes into details about how Maru was part of Tifa's daily life during the sequence of events that include the boys of her age leaving town, the meeting at the water tower after Cloud asked her, or the town getting dangerous with the mysterious appearances of monsters, and even the mention of meeting Shotgun, one day that Maru ran off too far into the mountains as mentioned before. In Final Fantasy VIII, one of the main characters, Rinoa Heartily, has a pet dog called Angelo. Well, technically its name is Sant'Angelo di Roma, but it's easier to simplify. This dog design resembles a tricolor Australian Shepherd that a member of the dev team owned. They have a relationship in a similar fashion to Shadow and Interceptor, but instead most focus on the gameplay addition that Angelo brings over the story itself. And let me tell you, it may be my favorite type of game mechanic involving one's pet. In terms of story, Angelo is brought by Rinoa to her house when it was a puppy from the Timber pet shop, without telling her father, and it's mainly just by Rinoa's side as her loyal friend. She introduces Angelo to Squall at the train in their mission to kidnap Galvadia's president, and tag along during the adventure, except of course when Rinoa and Squall are sent to space. You see how Cell's group find her and take care of her in the meantime. You are able to see Angelo in different cutscenes, like Squall and Rinoa talking at the flower field, or during the ending, you see the dog trying to find her master in the party, to later find her at the balcony talking with Squall. But more importantly, Angelo takes place in normal fights alongside Rinoa, as it's a passive status and the main element of Rinoa's limit breaks, called Combine. When you choose this command, Rinoa will summon Angelo into battle to perform one of her pool of tricks and leave, depending on the party's crisis level. All this may be Angelo Search, where she digs to find an item in the battlefield, maybe even a rare one. Angelo Recover, to heal an ally's HP when they are under 25% of their max health. Angelo Reverse, to revive a fallen ally, up to 12.5% of their max health. Angelo Strike, where she will attack the enemy, bite and grab it, jumping into the air, spinning around and throwing it to the floor again, in a similar fashion to Tifa's Meteor Strike. Invisible Moon, where Rinoa throws a bone for Angelo and she jumps with the image of the moon in the background, buffing the party by making them temporarily invincible. Wishing Star, their most powerful attack, where Rinoa jumps on Angelo's back riding it, knocking enemies into space and attacking them multiple times, causing potentially a lot of damage. And Angelo Cannon, also known as the best attack ever, as shown here. And just like Interceptor, it also has a passive status where it works as a counterattack when someone attacks Rinoa, called Angelo Rush. These combinations of tricks are so heavily linked to Rinoa gameplay that you'll be able to see reference to it in other places, like the fights at Dissidia NT or Brave Exvius. This may not be the conventional pet you can have at home, but in Final Fantasy XIII, Sashi is always connected to this fluffy bird pet. It's a small Chocobo chick, who is always by his side during the game and having the cutest interactions. With that, plus the plot twist at the end of the family story, I couldn't leave them behind. As mentioned, this nameless Chocobo chick is going to be hovering around Sash for most of his journey through the first game, as he appears in the intro of the game alongside Lightning, and doing a gag of living inside his afro hair, like a kind of personal nest, making them have a quick, strong bond. Sash got the Chocobo chick at a stall for his son Dash, fan of Chocobos, but when he was out of his sight, Dash ran into the energy plant and eventually got turned into a Lucy. So the Sanctum took him to study him, separating dad and son. Before that, they have a night at Badhum, where they become fast friends with the chick, and while Dash thinks up a name for it, it remains nameless until meeting again. During the game, Sash and Vanille visit Nautilus, City of Dreams, and home of a Chocobo farm, where the chick feels at home and you have a light-heart moment with it. Once Sash wants to tell his son about it, even if it means turn himself in as a Lucy and get executed. Later, when they are prisoners, they hatch an escape plan which involves the chick rushing to assault a soldier by surprise by Sash's command, showing some combination between them, and a resolution to not give up and get back to Dutch once again. When the party rests after falling into the Grand Pools, you can see the Chocobo chick being part of this newfound family, as it starts collecting food along Hope, while the rest do other tasks. And it's the one rushing to the party when Hope falls ill because of its Lucy brand, and even refusing to be left behind with other Chocobos to keep the party company until the end. The game ends with Sash and his Chocobo reuniting with Dutch, making the family complete again. But that's not it. The weird but funny twist comes later, with Final Fantasy XIII 2, but more importantly, Lightning returns. The struggle for Sash in this game is that his son has been sleeping for years now, as his soul is trapped, and only by collecting all the soul fragments, his mind and body will be awake once again, with the chick nowhere to be seen. Lightning will help them by collecting such souls, and one of those is going to be obtained by fulfilling a mission from Chocolina, the very cheery Chocobo girl who appeared in the previous game as a moving shop, mostly in a joke way, because you'll be jumping through time and space with Sarah, but Chocolina will always be there to sell you stuff. Once all the fragments are obtained, Lightning will return to Sash to attempt to save his little son, and notice that the Chocobo chick is back with them. Now, if you wonder why, and also why Chocolina had a fragment with her, that's because
ドジが飼ってたチョコボでよ。名前はチョコリーナってんだ。
チョコリーナだと？
そんなこと。
the goddess Etro decided to be funny and make the adorable pet and Chocolina the same entity, that is why. Glossing over that, Sash will attempt and fail to open the cage to save his son. That's because his desperation to save him is making him lose control of his temper and attitude, unconsciously scaring him. It's Chocolina herself, the one that, through her way of communication, is making Sash understand that, and proceed to act as they always did as a family. Waking up Dash and going back to be this lovely family of dad, son, and Chocobo chick. I guess it stopped being a normal pet, so we better move on. Let's talk about cats then, because in Final Fantasy XIII 2, the protagonist is Sarah Farran, who owns a cat at her place in New Batham. It is shown briefly in the first chapter, as it's a cat adopted not only by her, but the whole Nora family who lives together. One day, one of the members, Juge, found a stray cat and decided together to keep her, as the cat took a liking on Sarah immediately, and they joked to name her Snow for that, and to remember him as he left to find Lightning, as she's been missing even for most people's memories. During the game, one of the first missions is to find an out-of-place artifact, and the Moogle leads to this cat, where you learn about it and even can joke in a dialogue option that is everything Sarah cares for. Before leaving Batham on her journey to find Lightning, Sarah mentioned that someone did a good brushing on her cat, signaling that all her friends were supporting her in this new adventure she was soon to embark on, saying a last goodbye to them before jumping into the portal. I promise this one is on the surface a normal one. The main protagonist of Final Fantasy XV, Noctis Lucis Caelum, is owner, alongside his royal family, of the adorable pup that is Umbra. In reality, both Umbra and his sister and white counterpart Pryna are Canaan companions of the Oracle, who is Lunafreya, as the true identity of these dogs is that they are the messengers who are used by the Oracle to communicate with the Astrals and send humanity's message. During the journey, you'll meet Umbra as a way to communicate with Luna by carrying the lover's notebook between them, as they send messages to each other through the game. This happened at Long White Rest area after getting the regalia fixed, at the Chocobo post alongside Gentiana after losing the regalia during the fight against Titan, and at Cape Caem before heading to Alticia, as the couple exchange their last messages, knowing that they'll meet there. Of course, things don't go as happy as one would like, whether it was planned or not, and during the Leviathan trial in Alticia, Lunafreya is murdered, and with her last strength, delivered the Ring of the Lucy to Noctis, who wakes up later to find out that Umbra left one last bittersweet message in their shared notebook.
Umbra left that for you.
From this point onwards, Umbra will act kinda as a gameplay mechanic, as it will be the link between you being able to visit different parts of the world in different times, to revisit places and missions you haven't done and want to go back. Kinda like a chapter selection, but not really. And last time you see him, it's at the very end at the Citadel, watching the sun rising after years of eternal darkness, seeing the world as it restores its light. Pryna, on the other side, didn't have it that peaceful. She also perishes in the Alticia episode, as you're able to see in episode Ignis, where the young man finds the pup heavily wounded and before dying getting some visions of Noctis' fate and sacrifice. While it is also shown in episode Prompto as a spiritual manifestation or as messenger delivering Lunafreya's letter to his child self, in his journey to self-acceptance. The symbolism or dualism of Umbra and Pryna can be related to yin and yang, to light and shadow, or to Noctis and Lunafreya themselves. But at the end of the day, they are a bunch of adorable pups, and that's what matters.
あれが10年前だから今頃みんな喜んでると思います。
あいつらはどこに？
基本的にはレスタルムです。ハンマーヘッドにもちょくちょく。
In these bonus tracks, I wanted to mention some less important but still memorable characters who are known for having a normal pet, or them being involved somehow in the game. The first one will be Rufus Shinra. The brand new company president has his own loyal dog since his early days, and besides looking badass with it, both in Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VII Remake, his boss fight will include both him and his dog called Dark Nation, localized as Darkstar in the remake, showing a lot more combination attacks between the two in the latter, as they have a mechanic where they are linked, and it's only by breaking that you'll be able to stagger and focus on defeating the dog first, before getting the one-on-one fight between him and Cloud. If you focus on Rufus first, you'll probably trigger Dark Nation to heal him, making it impossible to beat. Next is the pet dog of one of the summons of Final Fantasy X. This one is the Aeon Yojimbo, a summon that resembles Odin as it has the chance to cast insta-death with its Sanmato attack. But what matters to us is his dog Daigoro, who will be alongside him not only during the summon animation, but also when you first meet the Faith. You can see there's a spirit of a dog too. Daigoro has the chance to attack an enemy if the money you offer Yojimbo displeases him, as he only attacks according to the amount of money you offer him. Not only that, but Daigoro will make its own appearance in Final Fantasy X too, as it will be Yuna's mascot in her trainer dress sphere, allowing her to use him to attack with different special effects, in one of the many amazing jobs and outfits that this game provides. Next is Gilgamesh in Final Fantasy XII specific. I don't think I have to say who Gilgamesh is in the franchise, but one of the many variations that he is going to have through the game is the role of Enkidu, rival and friend in the actual epic of Gilgamesh. In Final Fantasy XII, his role will be represented as a pet wolf-like, who fights along in both boss fights you have against him, and even its color scheme will be a reference to his first appearance in Final Fantasy V. And of course, let me present to you the best pet dog you'll ever see. It's from a random NPC in Lightning Returns, who gives you a side quest, as they got separated in the Wildlands, and she treated her dog as her own daughter. Once you go to a research camp and fulfill another side quest, you realize that it's the same dog, so when you bring her back to her owner, you have this super emotional reunion. My favorite part is that the dog name is Korone.
What the fuck?
I like to call Korone here the Final Fantasy XIV grapes of Lightning Returns. And to end this recap, as always, we are going to see what the upcoming Final Fantasy XVI is doing with this topic. This is because one of the party members of the protagonist, Clive, is going to be the wolf Torgal, at least at some point in the game, because this cute friend starts being the pet of Clive's younger brother, Joshua. The Rosefield house adopted Torgal when Archduke Elwyn found him abandoned in a snowfield during his northern expeditions and gifted to his kids. Apparently, during the game, tragedy will strike the family, and after miraculously surviving, Torgal will reunite with Clive in his quest for revenge, with the same loyalty he had as a puppy, joining you in the adventure not only as a support, but as actively being part of the fights and exploration. As you can see him taking part in the action with different commands, participating in scenes during boss fights like against Benedicta, being a useful buddy for some exploration mechanics like guiding you to place to move on if asked, and even, what maybe most people are expecting, is to be able to pet and tell him how big of a good boy he is. Tell me in the comments down below what are your expectations of Torgal for Final Fantasy XVI, like how scared you are that something bad happens to him and such. With all this exciting news about the first new Final Fantasy mainline game in years, it's the perfect time to get into this lovely franchise, as it provides a wide range of ideas and gameplay changes to keep it fresh and make every experience unique, making it that there's probably a specific favorite game that resonates more or less with each person. Thank you very much for watching, enjoy some Final Fantasy and I'll see you later. Love you.